Human connection is one of the most deeply studied areas in psychology, and yet for many people, it remains one of the most confusing parts of daily life. When we feel drawn to someone but struggle to bridge that emotional gap, the instinct is often to try harder, to do more, say more, spend more. But research in behavioral science and interpersonal psychology consistently points in the opposite direction. What actually creates meaningful connection is a shift inward, not outward. Let us begin with something as small and seemingly simple as eye contact. Studies in social neuroscience have shown that sustained, warm eye contact between two people can trigger the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, in both individuals. This is not just poetic language. It is a measurable physiological response. Specifically, researchers have noted that focusing your gaze on a person's left eye tends to activate the right hemisphere of the brain, which is more closely associated with emotional processing. The practical implication is straightforward. When you look at someone you care about, do so with genuine intention. A soft, steady gaze that communicates warmth and presence has far more relational weight than words. Moving from sight to smell, the science of olfaction offers another important lesson. The olfactory system is uniquely wired into the limbic system, the brain's emotional and memory center. This means that scent is one of the most powerful triggers of memory and emotional association we have. When someone encounters a particular fragrance, their brain immediately begins forming associations with the person or environment connected to that smell. Choosing a personal scent that reflects your authentic personality is therefore not a vanity decision. It is a form of nonverbal self-expression that can leave a lasting emotional impression without a single word spoken. Now let us address something that psychology calls the anxiety attraction paradox. When we are in a state of high anxiety, our bodies produce elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline. Interestingly, other people can detect stress signals in our body language, microexpressions, and even our voice without consciously identifying them. This creates an unconscious sense of unease in those around us, which interferes with genuine attraction. The evidence-backed solution is nervous system regulation. Compounds like L-theanine, found naturally in green tea, have been shown in controlled studies to promote calm alertness without sedation. Adaptogens such as ashwagandha have a documented effect on lowering cortisol levels over time. Magnesium supplementation has been linked to improved sleep quality, and sleep is foundational to emotional regulation. These are not quick fixes. They are part of a broader commitment to physiological well-being that makes you more present and more grounded in social situations. Before any significant social interaction, simple strategies like speaking with a trusted friend or family member can also be effective. Positive social priming, the process of being reminded of your value through supportive relationships, genuinely affects how you carry yourself and how others respond to you. Behavioral psychology introduces us to a fascinating concept called misattribution of arousal, which was famously demonstrated in studies by Dutton and Aaron in the 1970s. Their research showed that people who experienced physiological arousal in a neutral context, elevated heart rate, for example, would sometimes attribute that feeling to a nearby person rather than its actual source. In practical terms, this means that shared experiences involving novelty, mild excitement, or light physical activity tend to create stronger emotional bonds than sedentary, predictable environments. This is why a first meeting at an escape room, a dance class, a scenic night drive, or an interactive cultural event tends to be more memorable and emotionally resonant than a standard dinner setting. The brain is forming new associations, and the person you are with becomes part of that new and vivid experience. There is also significant psychological value in how we treat people who are not the focus of our attention in a social setting. Social psychology research on status and character perception has repeatedly found that how a person behaves towards servers, strangers, and service workers reveals far more about their emotional intelligence than how they behave towards someone they are trying to impress. Women, in particular, have been shown in multiple studies to place high value on a partner's capacity for generosity and respect across all social contexts, not just in their direct interactions. This is not performance, it is character, and character is something that cannot be faked over time. On the subject of certainty and security, one of the most well-supported findings in attachment theory is that emotional safety is a prerequisite for vulnerability and connection. When a person, regardless of gender, feels psychologically safe with another individual, their parasympathetic nervous system relaxes, their defenses lower, and genuine intimacy becomes possible. Every small act that demonstrates reliability, attentiveness, and emotional steadiness contributes to this sense of safety. Listening carefully when someone speaks, remaining calm during minor frustrations, and following through on small commitments are all behaviors that build a foundation of trust over time. The concept of stoicism, when applied to interpersonal dynamics, is not about emotional suppression. It is about the cultivation of equanimity, the ability to remain calm and purposeful regardless of external circumstances. From the perspective of interpersonal attraction, a person who responds to life's friction with composure rather than reactivity signals psychological stability. This quality is deeply appealing because it implies that a relationship with such a person would be emotionally safe rather than unpredictable. You can cultivate this through deliberate practice. Reading broadly, developing personal goals, spending time in unstructured quiet, and reducing habitual consumption of social media, which has been linked in research to increased anxiety and decreased life satisfaction. Finally, consider what developmental psychologists call identity consolidation, the process of knowing who you are independent of external validation. When a person has a strong internal sense of identity and purpose, they project what researchers call earned security. This quality has a measurable effect on how others perceive them. It is not about wealth, status, or physical perfection. It is about the visible evidence that a person is actively engaged in becoming better, more curious, and more self-aware. This ongoing process of growth is one of the most consistently attractive traits across cultures and age groups, not because it is performative, but because it signals a kind of aliveness that draws people in naturally. The foundation of genuine connection is not strategy or technique. It is presence, honesty, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself well enough to let others know you too. When you invest in your own emotional health, develop your character, and learn to regulate your inner world, you do not need to chase connection. You become the kind of person that connection finds.